Welcome in, everyone, to Redacted on this Wednesday. It is Liberation Day. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natali Morris. You get us both today. We're liberated.
We're liberated and back. Good to see all of you guys. Welcome back. Thanks to suffering through the sickness we've had in our house. I was out. Natali was out. We're back. So we're both back today to get to the news today. We're going to talk about Elon Musk possibly stepping down from Doge. The White House coming out and responding to that scoop from Politico. We're going to talk about that. Plus, it is Liberation Day. We're waiting for what these tariffs will mean from President Trump here, eagerly awaiting this announcement, what to look for. The markets are responding today, and a lot of mainstream media pundits, of course, CNN is like wall to wall with how this is going to be hugely painful for the American people. Mm-hmm. Are they correct? Well, we're going to talk to an expert on that in just moments.
I mean, I didn't get any direction of what kind of food you're supposed to make for Liberation Day. What are you supposed to wear? What do you do in your parades?
I think green is fine.
All right. I mean, I was really hoping for some cuisine.
Commando.
I'm always open to a new event. Hat. Yeah, if it comes with food.
Will there be a parade and floats?
I'm willing to complain if we don't get food with it. I don't care what you do with the economy, but I want some food.
I think it should be meat tacos, just like
burritos,
the shell meat, cheeses meat
tacos,
everything.
I'll bring a bean dip.
Right. Freedom fries. Dip. Okay. Yeah. All right. So you guys come up with that. You come up with the menu. We'll keep telling the news. I want to talk about this mysterious disappearance of soldiers who actually died in Lithuania on a NATO training, because the timeline does not add up, you guys. They've been lying to us. Why? Why are they lying? Why did they keep stuff from us? Why did they live stream it as if it was a Geraldo show? And why do we need to die in NATO countries right now to fight Russia? Why should we do that?
That's a good question.
So I have a lot of questions. I want you guys to pay attention to this and start demanding answers, because these are 4 men that died. 2 of them are fathers of young children. It's not okay.
Plus, we're going to talk about Canada in crisis. We're following the disaster in Canada. We'll be watching that today, as well as liberals there really seem hell-bent on trying to arrest conservative candidates right now. They tried this in America, of course, trying to arrest Donald Trump. It didn't seem to work out, so now Canada is giving it a shot. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But first,
we want to tell you about our friends over at American Financing, because, hey, if you are a homeowner, then maybe you're struggling to keep up, barely make ends meet. And, of course, that's not your fault, because life has been expensive lately. Inflation hit us all hard. And if you're carrying high-interest credit card balance with your mortgage sitting untouched, well, then you're ignoring the one thing that can help you. You can turn bad debt into good debt with our friends at American Financing. If you trade 10 minutes for a shot at saving over $800 every single month, they will teach you how to do this. And we say all the time, learn new financial products. Maybe they work for you, maybe they don't, but you're never going to build wealth unless you're learning alternative financial products. If you're just doing what the football commercials tell you, stocking away in some employee-sponsored 401k, that's not it. That's not how you build wealth. Instead, you learn alternative methods like the one that American Financing has to teach you. So head on over to americanfinancing.net/redacted or give them a call at 866-890-8434. One more time, they have salary-based mortgage consultants, and they will help you learn this. Go to americanfinancing.net/redacted.
Well, shares of Tesla jumped up this morning on an anonymously sourced Politico report. Look at those shares. That President Trump has told his inner circle that Elon Musk would be stepping back from Doge in the coming weeks. So is Elon Musk done with Doge? Probably not. But he'll leave it up to the team maybe he assembled to do the dirty work for him. Remember that Politico had millions of dollars, of course, pulled from them when it was revealed that USAID was funding Politico. So I guess take this report with a grain of salt. The White House denies the report. They're certainly taking it with a grain of salt. Here's Caroline Levitt just a short time ago. This scoop is garbage, she writes. By the way, I love when reporters write scoop.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the one that got the scoop.
Right.
Right. Scoop. So President Trump has told his inner circle and members of his cabinet that Elon Musk will be stepping back in the coming weeks from his current role. Scoop. Well, maybe
Caroline that worked before there was an algorithm. But now that there's an algorithm, it doesn't really work because nobody can verify it. We don't care. We only care if you bring us something that's worth seeing. So that's like, it's not the 20s anymore. There's no newsboys in the street,
Scoop, read all about it.
Yeah, so but you can keep using that word.
So Caroline says, the scoop is garbage. Elon Musk and President Trump have both publicly stated that Elon will depart from the public service as a special government employee when his incredible work at Doge is complete. Also, we learned today that this lady, remember her?
Pondering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying...
Sorry. Yes, the group responsible for the Tesla boycott is tied to her. You can't make this up. Her new project is called the American Sunlight Project, which is funded by George Soros. As it turns out, Jankowicz's a co-founder at the American Sunlight Project is a guy named Carlos Alvarez Araños, thank you. A communications professional who worked for the Biden Department of Defense. One of the people who launched the call for a boycott of Tesla. So when she was asked about who's actually funding your new project in front of Congress yesterday, she dodged this question.
Ms. Jankowicz, your organization, the American Sunlight Project, claims to have a commitment to transparency and apparently does not extend to disclosing its donors. Has the American Sunlight Project received funding either directly or indirectly from the George Soros or his foundations, including the Open Society Foundation?
Thank you, Congressman. I've received a lot of threats for speaking out. And so I've decided that we are going to abide by the rules that other 501c4s in our country abide by. And we are not required to disclose our donors, small or large, because I frankly don't want them to be threatened the way that I have been.
So sunlight for other people, but not for your donors.
If you're interested in more sunlight, I welcome you to introduce some legislation to overturn Citizens United, sir.
Oh, zing.
Okay.
So there's Jankowicz. You thought we saw the last of her?
Oh, no, we didn't, because she's still trying to come back around on her lawsuit against Fox News for just pointing out how she's garbage.
Yeah.
So she lost that suit. It was thrown out and she still wants to appeal and she's still crowdsourcing it. So if you have some extra money around and you want to help her out, you think that's a good cause, you can do that. Do that. Sure.
You can absolutely do that. Well, we want to talk about this because it is Liberation Day. It's not just Tesla stock that surged today. Markets also, the rest of the market is too surging in anticipation of Trump's big Liberation Day tariff announcements. We have guest Dr. Michael Schwartz joining us today on the show to break this all down. He's an entrepreneur, a podcaster, author of The Only Way to Save America. And as we sort of eagerly anticipate exactly how all of these tariffs are going to play out, Dr. Schwartz, welcome to the show. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
How are you celebrating Liberation Day today? Have you?
It's a day. Well, the day couldn't come soon enough. I mean, you look at what we used to do back in the 80s. We used to look for those tags, "Made in America." Now we've gotten away from that because we've come to a globalist this idea that everybody else should be equal. Meanwhile, we forget that the American workers, we don't put enough interest in them. I mean, Trump used tariffs as a negotiating tool, not to isolate Americans, but we forget that. The left will have you think that this is one big tax on Americans, but meanwhile, we're not making anything in America anymore.
Right. And so he continues to say, this is reciprocal. If they tariff us, we tariff them. And so in response, Israel says, I guess we'll stop that now.
And Vietnam.
To which most of us are like, why was Israel putting taxes on us? We give them so much money. Shouldn't we have never had that?
Right.
And so, can you play out how this might go? Will other countries follow Israel? Or is this actually going to be a tariff war?
Yeah, I think so. Israel came out and already said that. Claudia Sheinbaum from Mexico came out and said they don't want to impose tariffs on us. You saw that from Canada today. There's leaks about that, but that hasn't been confirmed yet, I don't think. But you can see that this is just one big game of chicken. But Trump is the ultimate negotiator. I mean, look, this is the guy who wrote The Art of the Deal. For people that don't understand that, we didn't have an income tax until 1913. We used to get all of our money from tariffs. That only became into law with the 16th Amendment. The passage of that is what allowed the government to start taxing its own citizens. So this is kind of the way it was intended to be under the founders. But what the left is telling you is that this is just going to be one big tax. It's going to cause inflation. Meanwhile, they didn't care about the inflation under Biden. They didn't say one word about it. But when the prices go up, even if they go up, short term right now under Trump, of course it's going to be a giant disaster for the left.
Yeah. Well, and the left is already, even CNN over the past few hours has been saying you're going to feel the pain, not even knowing what Trump's plan is. Like they don't have an inside track on exactly what he's rolling out here, so you're going to feel the pain. But let me just go through some of the details here. So when the initial tariffs went into place, they got announced. Prices went down. Take a look at this according to Truflation. Yields went down. Some countries took down their tariffs as a result of it. So this is the case right now that we had 3% inflation in December. It's down to 1.4 this week. And then we also have gasoline prices dropping to a 4-year low. Egg prices dropped off precipitously. We know that was a big talking point of the left. Trump, what are you going to do about these egg prices? As friend of the show, Anthony Pompliano, pointed out this morning, the 10-year Treasury yield, which the administration has said was a key metric for them, has been falling over the past few weeks. We haven't hit the number that they're hoping for just yet, but it's on that downward trajectory. So what kind of pain exactly are we expected to see from the liberal media? Like, what are they expecting us to suffer through over the next few days, weeks, months?
Yeah. That's a great question, Clayton. And, the left they didn't have an indication of what was to come anyway. I mean, you saw this on day one when Trump was elected. They thought, why aren't egg prices going down today? I mean, we've only been in office for 2 months. The market, though, will find its ultimate equilibrium here. I mean, at the end of the day, we need to start producing more products in America. We should be concerned about American jobs, not jobs overseas. So when you look at all those indicators, they're all snapshots in the day. Everybody's kind of glued to the TV today to see what's going to happen after, tomorrow morning when the market's open, to find out what happens after hours today from this big announcement. Well, we all knew it was coming. It's not like this has been a secret, and we're sitting here with bated breath waiting for this thing. The markets are going to find their equilibrium at the end of the day, and it's not. I don't think it's going to be that drastic. But if you look at what we did after, pretty much after Reagan, once we got into the Obama era and we started worrying more about the globalists than we did here, we've gotten so lackadaisical in this country. We don't care about American made anymore, and we should. I mean, everybody always says nationalist, and for some reason, I don't know why liberals like to put the word white in front of nationalist. Nobody ever says that. Nationalist cares about their country. That's where our concern should be, about here, jobs here. But the market will figure itself out. I don't think it's going to be that long-term, Clayton. I think these will be short-term blips, and in 6 months to a year, you're going to see everything even out. And the long-term play at the end of this administration will be more jobs for Americans, more revenue for this country, and less pressure to buy from overseas.
What are you looking for today? What key indicators are you looking for from President Trump?
Well, of course, I'm going to be glued to the markets tomorrow morning. But as far as the president is concerned, I'm more interested in this political, like I said, game of chicken. It's interesting to see what other countries and how they're reacting to the president, because no other president, for lack of better words, had the cojones to do this. You didn't see this under the Biden administration. They just kind of played the market. They wanted it to be fair in their minds, but it was never fair to Americans. They were more concerned about what France and Mexico and Canada would think of us. We got to stop worrying about what everybody thinks of us. So look, I'll be looking at the markets tomorrow morning, but it's more interesting kind of to see the political fallout from around the world and what leaders are pushing back and what leaders are kind of giving in. Right now, it seems like that Donald Trump is winning this game of chicken.
Well, it also should make us feel as Americans, wow, they really take advantage of us. Why would they do that to American products when we pay for so much of their security in European countries? And so it kind of feels like a mirror in front of our faces. Like, yeah, we are kind of treated badly. I don't like that. One thing we focus on a lot is the media spin. Now, when the jobs numbers and the inflation numbers came out for January, the media said, see, look what Trump did, even though he was only in office 1/3 of that month. Now we have February numbers and they're good. We see incomes up, consumer spending up. Can we actually attribute that to President Trump? We know the media doesn't want to, but what are the specific things that you think have been done thus far by the administration that would lead to that economic growth?
Well, it's the action, right? It's the action versus inaction. Look at the border right now. We have the lowest crossings in years. I mean, it's the fact that Trump does what he says and he says what he does. And I think people are reacting to that, all these little blips in the market. A lot of the Democrats are going to say these short-term gains are got to be holdovers from what Biden was doing. That's simply not true. And a lot of people say, well, like you just pointed out, we've only been in office for 2 months. Can we attribute any of this to Trump? I think a lot of it is speculation. So when you understand that this president does what he says, and like I said, president says what he does, you know he's going to carry out some of these policies. We get into the tax policy right now. Howard Lutnick wants to abolish the income tax. I'm huge in favor of that. They're coming out with maybe no tax on less than 150,000, but this no tax on tip, no tax on Social Security. I think the markets realize that Donald Trump is serious about these things, and they're going to carry them forward. So you're going to see the market react early based on the fact that I think they're convinced that he's going to get these things done.
Right. But we're still very much waiting, though, for the tax reform, for no tax on Social Security, for, anything like that. So a lot of it, you're right. It's a maybe good faith sentiment.
It's pure speculation, but at the end of the day, like I said, Trump is serious. I mean, what other leader has campaigned where you find they actually do what they say they're going to do during a campaign? I mean, it's kind of first time in our lifetime that we have a president who wants to get things done. I mean, we saw it in the first administration, but they pushed back so much. You're seeing that now. But with Trump now, I think, and I've talked to his folks. I'll be down at Trump International this weekend. And when you talk to his staff, they realize it too. They all knew that during the first administration, he was trying to look like a leader without scaring the country. Now he's gotten 4 years under his belt. He had the other 4 years to see all the lawfare. Now they said this is going to be a completely different term because he's surrounding himself with people who can get things done. He's not worried about the perception anymore. He's just laser focused on getting the mission done.
Yeah, and I hope the right information is getting to him, that he's not being gate-kept by certain people and that the right information is flowing to President Trump to carry these things out. So I'm really worried about the deep state surrounding him. That's what always triggers me. Dr. Michael Schwartz, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us from New Jersey today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
And sorry for the coughing and the wheezing over here, the whinging. All right. Well, so the markets, we're going to be watching how the markets, come out of this and how many countries will be on Trump's tariff list today and all of these indicators. But one thing, of course, that's could throw a wrench into the works is war. So here we go, folks. Iran reportedly preparing a preemptive strike on a joint U.S.-UK military base on the Chagos Islands in the Indian Ocean, 2,400 miles from Tehran. Why? Because they think a second Trump presidency could mean bombs falling on their homeland after President Trump threatened to bomb them last week. And with the way that neocons in Washington, of course, talk about Iran, it's not exactly a crazy assumption right now. So let's be clear. The Biden administration wasn't exactly waving olive branches at all either. Despite media spin, there's zero real diplomacy happening with Iran or even Russia from the Biden administration. It's all been proxy wars, arms deals, money laundering operations, and tough guy speeches. And Iran's watching it all unfold, especially America's blank check right now. America's blank check to Israel is a flashing neocon warning sign that they could be next on the list. Now, here's the part that no one wants to talk about. Russia, in all of this, just weighed in and said, look, that any U.S. strike on Iran would be a disaster for the West. That's not an empty threat. Russia and Iran are military allies pushing too hard. Push too hard and the U.S. could find itself in a multi-front war with not one but two nuclear powers. And don't forget the Houthis in all of this. So the U.S. ships keep getting attacked in the Red Sea. But notably, nobody seems to mention this. When Israel paused its bombing during the Gaza ceasefire, the Houthis stopped attacking our ships completely. But as Caitlin Johnstone pointed out this morning, it's not a mystery. They're retaliating because we're backing Israel's attack on civilians in Gaza. And she points this out perfectly in her piece today. I encourage you to read it. And she says they're retaliating because we're backing Israel's massacre of civilians. And she said, after 2 weeks of interacting with people who support Trump's war, I can confidently say that none of them know why the war is happening. They know it has something to do with the Houthis attacking ships in the Red Sea, but they never have any idea why those attacks started happening in the first place.
Does it even matter to those people?
No.
It's just a war is in the inbox, and we got to deal with it.
So they label them, as she points out, they label them terrorists and pirates. She says those words come up a lot. They legitimately do not know it's a blockade aimed at halting Israel's genocidal atrocities in Gaza, and that all attacks had ceased while the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas was in effect. They have no idea that Ansar Allah only announced the Red Sea blockade would resume after Trump and Netanyahu actively collaborated to sabotage the ceasefire and resume starving Gaza, or that they hadn't even resumed attacks yet when Trump began bombing them. Bottom line, this isn't self-defense. It's a manufactured chaos moment in the Middle East. What the hell are we doing there? Get the hell out. And President Trump today attacked Yemen's water supply. So this just happened before the show. U.S. airstrikes destroyed the water source for 50,000 Yemenis. So this wasn't an attack on Houthis, but they have now been bombing them. This is, hitting this massive water infrastructure, which will affect 50,000 civilians. A war with Iran means American deaths, terrorist blowback in the United States, a price tag in the trillions of dollars. Americans did not vote for this. Americans said enough is enough. We don't want these wars. Get us out of the Middle East. And there's just such a lack of education around what is actually happening there, especially in Yemen right now. So if the White House had any interest in avoiding this catastrophe, it would quit playing global cop, stop poking Iran, and just for once try to de-escalate before it's too late. And, Russia is not going to sit back and watch this happen. And as we're trying to negotiate a ceasefire agreement in Ukraine, this could spiral out of control. And it looks like it is right now in Yemen. All right, we've got more news to get to here on your Tuesday.
That's right. We're going to talk about the deaths of forced soldiers in Lithuania in a NATO exercise preparing for war with Russia. We're being lied to. The story makes no sense, but also they shouldn't be there. I think we can all collectively agree we don't have any business collaborating with NATO to prepare for war with Russia and provoke said war. So this story is going to piss you right off. I'm warning you. So stay tuned because that's what you come here for. You like that.
But first, you do. But first, we want to tell you about our friends over at Crowd Health. Stop sending money to big insurance companies who profit off of not paying your bills. And check out our friends at Crowd Health, okay? I mean, health insurance processes are confusing, can leave you feeling taken advantage of. When you transition to Crowd Health, they do things differently. If you trust me, I'm telling you, we are Crowd Health users, Natali and I, here in our family, and it has been unbelievably amazing because what happens when you go to the hospital or urgent clinic or other places like that is that when they know you have insurance, they'll surge the prices massively. But if you have Crowd Health, they don't do that because then you're paying cash. And then Crowd Health will actually negotiate your bill down on your behalf. It's remarkable. We've been using it now for over a year. You'll get $175 for an individual, $575 for a family of 4 or more. You'll get access to a community of people who are willing to help in the event of an emergency. You'll get access to telemedicine visits, discounted prescriptions, and so much more without doctors' networks getting in the way at all.
That's right. And these doctors are on the level. They're not prescription happy type doctors. And in fact, because Clayton has this virus, we had a telehealth consult yesterday and the doctor was like, you don't need antibiotics. And you wonder, this is a strange doctor. It's not my primary care. Are they just going to shove me drugs and set me on my way? And this guy was strict and he's like, you got to fight this. You don't get any antibiotics. Not that, we're drug happy people, but you really are surprised that when you're in a network like this, you're in a like-minded community. And I've run the numbers of having traditional insurance with which we still are going to pay high premiums or Crowd Health. And you not only save money, but you're not paying into a system where the doctors and hospitals can surge the prices. And in fact, recently we were given a bill for an event at an emergency visit, and it had a 30% discount for not having insurance because they say, you don't have insurance, we're not going to surge that price by 30%. It was a $3,000 discount. So you're disrupting the industry by joining Crowd Health. So go to joincrowdhealth.com. Make sure you tell them that Redacted sent you. And if you're still iffy about it, they have a team that will either get on the phone with you or do a live chat, and they will stay there and answer your questions until you feel comfortable. And I know it's uncomfortable to not have traditional insurance. That's why they're there to help you, walk you through it and explain it to you every step of the way. So again, go to joincrowdhealth.com and use the code Redacted. You'll get just $99 per month for your first 3 months. One more time, that's joincrowdhealth.com/redacted. Well, something very fishy is going on here. These 4 young Americans died in a NATO training exercise in Lithuania, and the U.S. government response has my spidey sense triggered. Take a look at these faces. Not a one of them is over 30. 2 of them had small kids. They died in a tragic and mysterious circumstance, and we all should demand answers. Now, here are the big questions we're going to tackle. I am by no means a military training expert, but even I know something's up when I read the story. So I'm not here to present a conspiracy theory because we still know so little, but the timeline doesn't add up. So watch for yourself. Here's some questions. Why did NATO announce these deaths a full 5 days before they were confirmed by the U.S. military? Why is the U.S. military not able to lock down a rescue mission? Lithuania basically live blogged it, which is not protocol. Why are we running training missions near Russia for NATO? Why did Lithuanian military say the tank was empty when in fact the men were inside dead? Why was that? Why did we get confirmation of these deaths so long after they had that tank full of 4 dead bodies? Do you recover a tank and say, I wonder if there are dead guys in there? The 4 guys were missing. Should we look in the tank?
Maybe that's a good place to start.
Nah, we don't need to open it. Listen, like Christmas morning, we just leave it closed. What? Go ahead.
The tank where they called with the distress signal?
Right, yeah.
Maybe we'll check in the place where they called because they were in trouble.
So they had it for 5 days and we got no confirmation that there were dead bodies inside. I'm going to show you that. Who in the year 2025 dies in a bog? Like in the Never-Ending Story, in a heavily calmed military vehicle near a training base with clear skies, so they could have sent up rescue aircraft. How? And when that bog was on a map, it was mapped. So do they normally just drive right into bogs? So here's the timeline. You're going to have to remember that last Tuesday was March 25th. So keep that in mind if you're watching this much later. March 25th is on a Tuesday. From me, that's just a week ago. So the official line from Stars and Stripes, the military news outlet, is that the M88A2 Hercules armored vehicle sank into a bog on that Tuesday, March 25th, during an early morning operation that sparked nearly a week-long rescue effort. This is what an M88 looks like. It has all the live communication ability you'd expect, plus GPS. Now, the next day, the very next day, Wednesday, the 26th, Mark Rutte, the head of NATO, said all 4 soldiers are dead. And then he walked it back and said, actually, we didn't mean that. We don't even know if they're dead. Sorry. The rescue mission, again, 24 hours later, Mark Rutte saying, no, I misspoke. This is an active rescue mission. Didn't mean to say that, guys. We regret any confusion. But then the Lithuanian military said, actually, we have the tank. 1 day later, this is Wednesday. Yeah, we have the tank, but it's empty, they said. Take a look at this news headline. Empty tank found in swamp in hunt for 4 U.S. soldiers feared dead after NATO drills on Putin's ally border. Now the military is saying that the 4 men were all dead inside. So why did we get this news last week from the Lithuanian Defense Ministry? Watch.
We want to repeat once again, there's no confirmation that the soldiers were killed. I'll read it for you. I will say that the area is now narrowed. Well, we know area at where something maybe happened. That's why we've gathered all the equipment. Lithuanians, together with the Americans, are doing preparatory work, he says. I can't really comment further because there's an ongoing investigation into the missing soldiers. And what I can say is that it's very important for us to find those soldiers as soon as possible. Because you all know how important it is, the presence of U.S. troops in Lithuania. Their soldiers are like our Lithuanian soldiers to us, so we spare no effort within the American command. The battalion chief and the brigade chief has arrived. We are looking for and trying to find solutions.
Now, she says, at the moment, there is no confirmed information. There are no bodies of dead soldiers. That's why it's wrong to say they're dead soldiers. So she says, we have the tank and it was empty and we have no soldiers. Why did she say that when the U.S. military on April 1st, just 5 days later, would say they were found dead inside the tank? So did they pull up that tank and then just kind of put it over there and not open it up? Does that make sense? Did they pull up the tank and they just did a cursory eye sweep and didn't find them? Why did they say that? Why were they lying? So that was the following day, Wednesday, the 26th. They have the tank. The soldiers are inside dead. That's what we're being told now. But they just didn't see them. in there. And then for the next 5 days, the Lithuania Department of Defense basically live blogs this event on its X account, where we get all kinds of images like this of drones and backhoes and, dogs and all that kind of stuff. Now, note the date here, March 31st. Why are they posting this on Sunday when they've had the tank with the bodies since Wednesday? Are they just playing with their toys now? Also note that all of these images we were given from the Lithuanian military is not protocol. Standard U.S. military protocol for incidents involving military personnel and sensitive equipment includes a perimeter lockdown, usually, if we are in charge, the United States, to secure the site and prevent unauthorized access. This is all written up in the guidelines on ready.gov. So did the military, the U.S. military, not care that this was a U.S. rescue mission and put our protocol on and say, lock this down, please stop streaming things like this? Did we not want to tell Lithuania to knock it off and stop putting this on social media? Did this buy them time? If they had recovered the tank with the bodies inside within a day, were they just playing with us, pretending there were no answers? Or were they looking for something else? Or is this a distraction from some other truth? Now, when President Trump was asked about this, he says, well, the tank was just so heavy, it just dropped down like one of those things.
Mr. President, have you had any updates on the U.S. soldiers missing in Lithuania?
I have.
Can you give us an update?
So 3 are no longer with us, and 1 is unfortunately probably in the same category, but they haven't declared that yet. It was a very heavy truck, like I told you, but I mean really heavy, that lifted the heaviest equipment. And it would seem that the bank of the lake collapsed. The weight is so big. And it was at night, and it was very cold weather, ice, a lot of ice. And it's possibly slipped, and the weight is so enormous of this thing. It's a massively heavy vehicle. And if they slipped a little bit, it's probably what happened, and it flipped. And 3 are gone, and 1 is missing.
On a separate topic.
Yeah, so someone in the chat says, yeah, these are training exercises. This happens all the time. Exactly, this happens all the time. But we're told the truth about it, usually, it seems. But why the lies about all these soldiers being missing? We can't find them. We don't know where they are. And then having to walk this back and to tell us that they're inside.
Why the rescue theater for 5 days after they'd recovered the tank, and then pretending they don't know where the bodies are, and then just to tell us, oh, we've had them all along. They've been in the tank. Why that? What's behind that? Also, President Trump said it was at night. Well, it was early morning, so it may have been dark. We don't see any images of ice, like he said, but maybe there was. Now, my biggest question is, why are they? Why do we have Americans dying to train in Eastern Europe in the first place for combat against Russia on Russian borders? Here's a map of where this happened. And also, again, the only watery areas known next to the base were mapped. So why would they then drive into that area? These are all 4 young men, all of them under 30. One was a father of 4, the other a father of 2 young children under 2. Now, General Christopher Donahue, he's the commander of the U.S. Army forces in Europe, confirmed that they had to, quote, lean heavily on the support from Lithuania, Poland, and Estonia. He said this to Stars and Stripes: this is a tragic event, but it reinforces what it means to have allies and friends. Now, I see it very differently. I feel like, well, we went out to put ourselves in danger for these allies and friends. We need not have done that, maybe. My take is that President Trump had signaled that he would start to reduce cooperation with NATO. He said that, right? Am I on glue? Or did that actually happen? He said we need to reduce our foreign presence, reduce the number of military bases, stop training for a war with Russia, reduce the size of military presence overseas in general. If he had actually done that, then these soldiers would be alive, right? Now, there's no need for any American to be training for a war with Russia, and not especially alongside war-loving NATO as our allies. Now, of course, this could very well have been an accident. I'm not blaming President Trump for this, clearly. But I am saying maybe this will motivate us to withdraw troops from NATO cooperation. If this had happened on U.S. soil, which sure, it could have happened in any U.S. state, absolutely, possibly, actually, because we don't know if it was some kind of foreign sabotage, but possibly could have happened in the United States. But then we would have been able to secure the optics. Maybe we would have been able to get to those soldiers faster. Maybe we wouldn't have had a foreign government live streaming rescue efforts. Maybe we would have had not the comms mistakes, right? Possibly. So let's stop playing war with NATO and bring our troops home where we know we can protect them better, huh? How about that?
Yeah, President Trump has called out President Biden basically for starting the war in Ukraine, admitted it, thankfully. And I was like shocked. I'm like, I can't believe President Trump is saying this. Hallelujah. Like, let's applaud the man for actually calling out the BS of what Democrats did and getting us into this war under Obama and expanding, of course, the war against Russia. It is a proxy war. We should have these soldiers come home. The 50,000 of them that are stationed around in these different bases need to come home. And by the way, they're sitting ducks in the Middle East right now. So this is what happens. And President Biden, by the way, knew this was going to happen. He's called attention to the fact that this was going to happen during his presidency. He said it's only a matter of time before American soldiers get hurt and killed in the Middle East. Well, if it's a matter of time, Mr. President Biden, then let's get them the hell out of there. If it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time before this kind of stuff happens far from home.
Now, I'd love to hear from maybe military veterans or anyone who's done a training exercise like this who might say, well, it does look like this is the risk of normal training exercises. But now we have two fatal training exercises under the Trump administration. The first one took out a plane of civilians, and now this one has 4 military personnel underwater dead. And so maybe we need to secure training exercises. There's a thought, right? A relevant thought. And maybe we need to have more control over when we go into training exercises that we actually can protect our people. And maybe NATO's not it. Maybe that ain't it anymore. Maybe this is not the boyfriend to have. So let me know what you think. I really would love your response on this. It doesn't add up, right? On what's missing here. What's the missing element?
Gail Seeker in our chat says, yeah, but Trump is not bringing the soldiers home, though. So, yeah, I mean, I know he said it. So we were applauding him saying that he was going to do that, and they were going to reposition some of those soldiers out of Europe. And I'd love them for on America's southern border. That's where, or the Canadian border, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. All right, we've got more news to get to here on your Wednesday. We're going to talk about Canada in crisis, and the move now by liberals in Canada is, hey, let's lock up our conservative candidates who are running against us, our conservative opponents. They tried that with President Trump. They tried to lock him up in the United States. Didn't Canada learn anything? It's kind of shocking. There's a lot of big developments happening right now in Canada's election. It's kind of a big disaster. We're going to talk about that with our friend David Clayton in just a moment. But first, I'm going to tell you about our friends over at Connect Invest. So, is your money working for you? Well, investing in real estate has never been easier than it is right now. Investing in real estate is it's my favorite way to build wealth. Undeniably, the number one way to build wealth. Savings accounts and CDs offer low returns, barely keeping up with inflation. The stock market, volatile, unpredictable. One day you're up, one day you're down. If you're tired of watching your hard-earned money sit idle or ride the market roller coaster, it's time for a better solution. Now you can invest in real estate short notes with as little as $500. That's right. We have a lot of viewers who did this and took advantage of this a few weeks ago. I'm telling you, you get annualized returns up to 9%. Yes, you heard me right. And you can choose the length. So you want to just keep it in there for 12 months? Great. So 12 months at 9%. And again, for as little as $500, you can start earning fixed monthly returns by investing in real estate short notes, which they collectively fund large commercial real estate projects. No property management, no market swings, just steady, predictable income with annualized return rates up to 9%. Here's how easy it is to get started. Just create your account. Go to redacted.inc/invest. Okay, you create your account. Then you fund your digital wallet with like $500 or more, how much you want to invest. You select a short note, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. It's kind of like a CD. You choose how long you want it in there. You sit back, then you earn monthly income through your investment term. And guess what? For a limited time, if you use our link right now, you're going to get a $50 bonus in your digital wallet, just $50 that they're going to throw in there for you right now. For as little as $500, you get that extra $50 bonus just for signing up. Go to redacted.inc/invest today. And it's a great way to start getting invested in real estate. Stop letting your money sit idle. Invest smarter, earn more, and build wealth with our friends at Connect Invest. Redacted.inc/invest. All right. I think I need a little drink of water. I need a little drink of water.
Anybody name that movie quote? I don't think you'll get it. It's from 16 Candles. I didn't give you a chance to guess. Yep. But okay, we're doing all right.
Blue Nose Bob 1872 says bashing Trump equals clicks and views. Show him Redacted minus bashing Trump. I don't know that. Actually, I think that's the opposite of getting views. Like these days, there's like a lot of conservative channels that'll just kiss Trump's ass no matter what he does. That's not us. Mm-hmm. That's not our. We've told you from the very beginning, we're going to hold any administration accountable. We are independent. So when the Trump administration does something ridiculous, like bring out Jeffrey Epstein binders, or cozy up to Benjamin Netanyahu to carry out and reject a ceasefire, we're going to call him out.
Yeah.
But we're going to praise him when he does great things. So that's what you'll get from our show. But there are plenty of conservative shows out there that will never, ever criticize Trump. And they will just kiss his ass. That's not our show. So we don't do that here. We're not going to do that.
I don't consider us an anything show. We're not a MAGA show. We're not a conservative show. We're not a liberal show. We're an independent show.
Yeah.
There's not really much that I ideologically align with 100%. And I don't think that's why you come to Redacted. We're just looking for truth. So we can like certain people, but still not like the things
Trump.
that they do.
I like Trump a lot. I mean, and he was amazing to my father. I told this story the other day to a friend. I mean, he called my father after my father had heart surgery, and I mean, he just got on the phone, just wanted to talk to my dad. My dad was a huge fan of Trump for many, many years, read all of his books. My father was just over the moon about it. I mean, he was incredibly gracious. The 20 or so times that I've interviewed President Trump, he's been gracious and kind. I've asked him tough questions, but he's always been kind to me. So I like the man personally quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I'm allowed to criticize political leaders because, after all, we elected these people to do certain things.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess so. It's censorship. You got to be blocked. I don't know.
Right.
All right, let's talk about Canada now, shall we? Because they've got a crisis on their hands. So here's the new liberal strategy in Canada, or so it would appear. Have your conservative opponent arrested. Didn't they try this in America, trying to arrest Donald Trump? Liberals tried this and it failed miserably.
It's working well in France, though.
I guess. Yeah, I think it's with Marine Le Pen. Well, Liberal MP and candidate Paul Chiang suggested that someone should abduct his conservative opponent, take him to the local Chinese consulate, and collect a $183,000 bounty for dissident critics of communist China. Yeah, a bounty on this guy's head. Everyone should go and arrest my opponent right now. Watch this.
The other person that's running most probably is, the Chinese community knows, Zhou Te, Zhang Jing. Right? He is looking for the nomination. The Chinese media knows him. He was in the media business in Hong Kong, and here in Canada, he's a radio host, or I don't know, for Singtel Media or Fairchild, he was a media person. So that's all he did all his life. But also right now, he is wanted by the Chinese government, and there's a $1 million reward on his head. So they want, if you guys want to pick him up and take him to the Chinese consulate, you make him $1 million. I'm just joking. But there is a arrest warrant out for him from the government of China, and there is.
I'm just joking, but seriously, guys, there is a $1 million bounty. So if you guys want to make $1 million, we know times are tough here in Canada. Go arrest my opponent so I can win this election. David Clayton has been following this. He's an independent journalist out of Ottawa, Canada. He writes at the Post Millennial. He's got the great channel as well, David's Right on YouTube, and he's been posting about this and following the craziness of the Canadian election. David, I mean, what happened to this guy now? Can you update us? Where do things stand with this? Has the guy been arrested? Has he stepped down? What's happening?
Well, Paul Chiang has stepped down. But what's incredible about this is not just that anybody, a sitting member of parliament, would stand in front of a crowd and suggest they abduct his opponent, bring him to the Chinese consulate, and claim the reward. It's $1 million Hong Kong dollars, by the way, which translates to about 183,000 Canadian. This would be bad enough if there wasn't so much Chinese interference in Canadian elections. The Canadian Security Intelligence Service has documented this. A whistleblower came out about a year ago and said that the Chinese government may have bought at least 2 elections for Justin Trudeau. Wow. That MPs across the Greater Toronto area have been targeted by communist China. So this is a guy in the Markham constituency. It's the Greater Toronto area. And we also had a report last year, of course, saying 11 members of parliament were actively being influenced by foreign governments, namely China. In other words, they were possibly spying for China, and they were sitting in the House of Commons. So this guy has the gall to stand up before a crowd and suggest they turn in his opponent. And is there no common sense here? It's bad enough, but given the fact that we know the Chinese are interfering in our elections, this just makes it doubly bad. And what really is the kicker is that Mark Carney defended this man until the last minute. He said, he's been a police officer for almost 30 years. He's a man of integrity. He had a brief lapse of judgment here, and I'm standing behind him. It took a possible investigation and charges by the RCMP to finally induce Paul Chang to say he's stepping down. And Mark Carney really said nothing about that either. But Mark Carney is in China's pocket. We already know that. I've talked about this in...
Let's talk about this. This is because I think for people that might be watching, they might be saying, oh, we've heard this before, Russian interference in U.S. elections, a hoax and all this stuff. So China is in Mark Carney's pocket. Can you lay out the evidence here?
Or Carney is in China's pocket because he has been working throughout the years.
Pants in this?
Right, yeah, exactly.
You have to remember, Mark Carney has been a governor of the Bank of Canada, governor of the Bank of England. He's an internationalist, he's a globalist, but he's also firmly a believer that communist China should be the economic engine of the world, and that the Chinese yuan should replace the American dollar as the global currency. He's on record as saying this in a speech in Jackson Hole, Wyoming in 2019. He said it again last year. He said it in other appearances. He's also praised China for its environmental policies, which of course is insane, because whether or not you're talking about the greenhouse gases that Mark Carney is obsessed with, or you're talking about real pollution, nobody pollutes it better than China. So Mark Carney is constantly coming to communist China's defense. And last October, while he was working for the government of Canada, he went to Beijing ostensibly to talk about how China and Canada could forge closer relations, though I don't know how they could be any closer. But he took the time to talk to the central bank in Beijing about securing a loan for his company, Brookfield Assets Management. And he managed to walk away from China with $276 million in loans from the central bank. So when Pierre Poilievre asks, can we in any way trust Mark Carney to work for Canada? Is this man fatally compromised for China? I think the answer is obvious. Yes, he's compromised. He's been working for China. His goal as prime minister will be, as he said, to replace the United States as the world leader with China. So I call Mark Carney a Manchurian candidate because I think he's been installed by the globalists as well as the Chinese, and who are functionaries.
Right.
Yeah, and funded by them.
But that makes him, like you said, an extension of Justin Trudeau, because if you could, please remind us of the Trudeau's love affair with China. So why is this sound so similar?
Well, that's exactly it, Natalie, because a lot of people have been ignoring the Chinese factor. And they're just saying, well, he's been a banker, he has to deal with China. It's suddenly people are saying, well, why did he defend this MP with such veracity? Why did he insist he was standing behind it? Was he afraid of insulting his Chinese masters? It certainly would appear that way. And as you say, it's Justin Trudeau famously, even before he was Prime Minister of Canada, he was at a Liberal fundraiser and he was asked, which economies, which countries do you most admire in the world? And Justin Trudeau, without blinking an eye, simply said, China, the basic dictatorship, because it can turn things around on a dime. It can implement And he said it, climate change policies immediately without even having to have popular support for those policies. So that's the kind of person Justin Trudeau was. Mark Carney has built his career on net zero policies, on anti-energy policies. And that's exactly what Justin Trudeau has been. So is there any
Do they
difference
not
between these two men?
understand that China's energy policy is we will continue to innovate until we peak in carbon emissions, and then the technology will be such that we lower carbon emissions because we get better and better at it, and we will improve our economy to the betterment of our people, as we damn well see. That is not the Trudeau-Carney line. They want you to live without. The Chinese government does not. So are they thick?
I think there's a deliberate delusion going on here with China, because China has a policy of really being China first, and to hell with anyone else in the earth who wants to get in their way. And nobody is firing up more coal plants than China. And of course, that's supposed to be anathema to people like Mark Carney. But you know what really has amazed me is that the Conservative Party finally had Mark Carney in their target. They finally had the mainstream media asking him questions about his relationship to China, about whether or not he was tied too closely to China, and why would he possibly stand behind this fatally flawed candidate. So what did the Conservative Party do? They decide to go on an internal purge the following day, and they start getting rid of candidates who they think are not saying the right things. And this has totally outraged the conservative audience in Canada, who are saying, what the heck is going on with this conservative campaign? You finally make your point about Mark Carney being in the pocket of China. You finally make the point that he's got candidates out there who have no right to be, or no business to be running for office. And you decide to go after Stéphane Marquis, a Montreal area candidate who could possibly have knocked off Stephen Guilbeault, the environmental extremist who was the environment minister under Justin Trudeau. And they accuse, guess, you'll love this. What do they accuse Stéphane Marquis of? Well, he was spreading conspiracy theories. What kind of conspiracy theories, you ask? Well, he was suggesting Bill Gates was getting rich off of pharmaceuticals and vaccines. He was suggesting that COVID vaccine wasn't entirely safe and effective. He was suggesting that the war in Ukraine had something to do with the expansion of NATO. Wow. And there's outrage about this complete attack, assault on freedom of speech.
Yeah, you can't talk about those things, of course. I mean, so I just don't understand this obsession with China and being paid off. I mean, we saw now the millions of dollars the Biden crime family were paid at the hands of China, liberals in Canada as well, Trudeau, of course, and his influence with China, and now Mark Carney, his massive influence and funding from China. And then not to mention the fentanyl crisis, which of course has poured in from China right into the port of Vancouver and is not being checked by the Canadian government at all. It's almost like Canada has been completely taken over by China.
Well, and the irony here is that, of course, Donald Trump has endorsed Mark Carney twice. He has said that Mark Carney will win this election. He understands Mark Carney. He even calls him Mark. And he refers to him as the Prime Minister of Canada, not the governor of the 51st state, as he did with Justin Trudeau. These two seem to be very chummy indeed. But the irony, as I say, is that do you think for a minute Mark Carney is going to do anything to stem the flow of fentanyl into this country that's coming from China? It's all coming into the Vancouver ports. And there's been tremendous research coming out of investigative journalists in this country about that flow of fentanyl going into Vancouver and then going across the U.S. border. And we've talked about this previously. But does Donald Trump, if he really thinks his issue with Canada is one, border security, and number two, flow of fentanyl, does he really think Mark Carney is going to improve matters at all when he is so much beholden to China? China will continue to pump fentanyl into Canada under Mark Carney, probably more so than it did under Justin Trudeau. I think Pierre Poilievre, as flawed as he appears this week, has a better security plan and is more imposed to want to go after the flow of fentanyl into Canada. And I think Donald Trump's making a fatal mistake by endorsing Mark Carney and supporting him in such a vocal and obvious way that he is.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. But, I guess there are a lot of smarter people out there than me that can figure this out. Why is Trump supporting Mark Carney? I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't figure it out. David Clayton, thank you for staying on top of this story and calling out the conservatives as well for not putting enough pressure on this Chinese influence into Canada. And it's real, and it's deeply troubling. David, great to see you as always. Thanks so much.
Thank you both.
All right. Well, before we go, I would. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Philip has something.
I was just going to say, I'm incredibly distrustful of any world leader that thinks another country's currency should be the dominant currency. Shouldn't you just by default? Shouldn't Mark Carney be like, it should be the Canadian dollar?
Yeah.
Why would you choose another country?
Even if it's not possible. Yeah.
Right.
I would like that guy to be in charge.
It's like he's being the little guy in the bully, like the 80s bully thing where you've got the one kid that's just he's going to beat you up, why would you champion somebody else like that? Stand up for yourself.
I don't get it.
He's Crab and Goyle to Malfoy.
Right. Yeah, maybe it's reverse psychology, Leo says. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what Trump's pulling here with Carney, but it doesn't seem that way. It doesn't seem to be.
Yeah. All right. As I was going to say, before we go, we'd like to remind you that if you are a fan of Redacted, you can show the world by going to redactedstore.com. That's where we have T-shirts and mugs and bumper stickers and things that you might consider to support Redacted and tell other people that you, for instance, are a conspiracy knower. That's one of my favorites because conspiracy theories have been proven true. You can tell the world you knew all along. This is not brand new information. Mugs, stickers like this one, T-shirts, no farmers, no food, to support local farmers. So check out the offerings there at redactedstore.com. Maybe you can get it for somebody for Easter or Mother's Day or something like that. Let us know what you think of our offerings there, and also let us know if you have ideas for more. So yeah, we don't tell you that often about the Redacted store, so I just wanted to non-pacifist peace extremists, that's going in the gym. Right? So anyway, let us know what you think of our offerings there. Head on over to redactedstore.com.
And we'll be back tomorrow, live with you tomorrow. We got some special guests. I think Glenn Greenwald is going to be joining us tomorrow here on the show. That'll be exciting live. And we've got other guests lined up for you tomorrow as well.
Lionel will be here to talk about what the heck with this Epstein story, the Epstein victim. What's that all about? What's going on with the Diddy cases that have been dismissed?
South Park is going to, apparently their whole new season of South Park is rolling out, and it's going to be heavily Diddy focused.
Okay.
I'm there for that.
Cool.
I'm there to see the South Park takedown of the Diddy posse.
All right. Yeah. So you should get both of us back tomorrow. We're doing pretty good. This was flu season 2025, just about over. Knock on wood. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.